B. Live from the campus of Westfield State University, this is 89.5 FM, WSKB, Westfield. Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Westfield Bank. For more than 160 years, Westfield Bank has been an important community presence and commercial leader in the Pioneer Valley. With convenient full banking services in Westfield, West Springfield, East Longmeadow, Agawam, Feeding Hills, Springfield, Southwick, as well as Enfield and Granby, Connecticut, visit us on the web at westfieldbank.org.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 6:05. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC cable channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I am in the studio this morning with the chairman of the board, producer Pete Coles. Good morning, Pete. Yeah, a little discombobulated this morning, Pete.
Well, I got a late start, and then I needed a coffee this morning in the Dunkin' Donuts line. It was obviously long, and then they tell me they don't have half the order I sent in on the app.
Oh, dear.
So I'm like, well, okay, we'll make do. As long as you can get me a coffee at this point, I will be okay.
Please, please. You know, Pete,
they had coffee.
I honestly, I can, I'm starting to understand your world a little bit because as some of you know, I got up early yesterday to be on Bob Plass's show. He did that was a phenomenal show, by the way, Pete.
Yep.
I thought that was fantastic. I mean, we were, Bob sent us the link last night about 15 minutes or so before I was supposed to be at the Pride flag raising event to help, get things going over there.
Yep.
And I made the mistake of clicking on the link. Well, of course, you click on the link, then you start watching. And I had Bob cracking up because I said, it was so interesting, just to listen, especially to the part after I left.
Well, like I was telling him right at the beginning of the show, you could tell the statistics you want on something.
Yes.
But if you really want to hit home, and I've learned this, I mean, you fight battles with people in the politics part.
Yep.
Statistics are true, right?
Yes.
But if you really want to hit home, especially on a person who's emotional anyways, the emotional personal story actually hits home.
Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. And I've done that on grant presentations.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. I'll throw a few stats out because, you need to. And for some people, they're numbers people and they want to hear that. But almost always I will do the personal story because that is what, that's what makes it real for people. But that's the same way when I was teaching at Springfield College, as an adjunct, I would bring all my experiences. This is what happened to me at work yesterday. And that's what the students connected with, the stories.
It's even like we were talking about masks on one of the shows. Maybe it was Kenny's show or something. Mm-hmm. And I said, I witnessed somebody in a store or something. I think it was a store. Mm-hmm. Somebody wasn't wearing a mask during the pandemic. And somebody actually called them a murderer. And they were screaming at them.
Wow.
And I'm like, now there's all this call for people who want to continue to wear masks to not stigmatize them.
Right,
and I'm like,
right.
Well, where the hell were you when this was going on? And it was, I heard
around.
more than one story about it. So this wasn't, and it's like, come on.
Yeah. Well, Pete, speaking of masks, so I have been having this problem for the last few days on no mask identity confusion. So, since the pandemic started, especially coming through our curbside lunch line, so there are a lot of people that started coming to get lunches curbside that never came to the senior center before. So
yeah, sure.
I don't know what they look like. I only know what they look like with a mask on.
Right.
I know what they look like, just their eyes, and I know their vehicle. But now they're coming up, and I got guys with mustaches. I'm looking at like, who are you?
Are you still requiring masks, or what's the policy at the senior center right now?
We're not. No, our policy now is that masks are optional.
Okay.
We are encouraging, if people have not been fully vaccinated, to continue to wear your mask.
Okay.
So that's really our policy. And so we had our first Under the Tent fitness program yesterday morning with Michelle Urbanski. It was our mail call class. It was awesome. It was so great to see the guys. They were so excited to be there. It was a perfect morning for working out.
Yeah, sure.
Under the tent. And
nice cool mornings in the summer.
Oh my gosh.
Get it done earlier the better.
It was fantastic. And you know what? That class is exceptionally early because of Michelle's schedule, because she also teaches some classes at the Y. Mm-hmm. So we would do 9 to 10 for our other ones, but for hers we had to do it 8 to 9 because of her schedule. And Mary Lou Najowski, our program director, said when I called the guys that had taken the class before to let them know that's starting up, she said I didn't have one complaint about 8 o'clock. That's too early. Like, they were all there. Everybody was there early. And we told them, we said, look, you're outside. you're grown-ups. The mask mandate has been lifted, so I don't feel like I can mandate anything.
Right,
only,
and that's
you
the
know what
thing.
I mean?
It's like you should have common sense.
We encourage people. You know,
I
it's like,
think that's
listen,
been
be
the-
smart.
That should have been the case all the way through, but people need to be told.
Yeah, they do. They do. So anyway, that's our official policy. Other senior centers are not. They are requiring them if you're indoors. Some if you're outside, no. If you're inside, yes. I'm conscious of the fact that not all of my staff are fully vaccinated yet. They're partially vaccinated. So we as a staff, we're still wearing them inside, just for the protection of each other.
Yeah, that's fine.
But yeah, it's so weird. I almost feel like my mask has become my security blanket. And I mean, when I go into a grocery store, I'm still wearing it. I'm like last night I wore it to the Pride flag raising event. At the beginning, I had to speak, so obviously I took it off. And then after my speech, I kind of left it off. Obviously we're outside,
right?
And
they said the likelihood of you catching COVID or any other viral type disease like that is 0.01%.
Yeah. Well, as I said, Pete, I know. As I said, it has strictly become a security blanket. And then I'll share one other secret. I've discovered, especially when I go grocery shopping, I talk to myself a lot. Like I'm walking up and down the aisles, I'll be like, "Oh, wait a minute, what do I need for that recipe?" And I'm mouthing the words. And with a mask on, nobody knows that. But when I take the mask off, everybody's going to know that I talk to myself, especially when I do my grocery shopping.
Yep.
So
now they just hear a disembodied voice.
Yeah, I know. It's the weird. Well, I just, it's like, because I'll be walking along going, oh, wait a minute, I need something down aisle 3, I also notice, I believe now at the Big Y on Silver Street that they took the arrows off the aisles.
Yeah, it's probably easier to clean the floors.
Which is so great because I got to tell you, I was forever like, oh crap, I'm going the wrong way. I'm like turning around. Wait, I got to go down that aisle to get to this aisle next door, and so I'm kind of happy that
I haven't been in a grocery store honestly in close to 10 months.
How are you doing your Are you doing delivery shopping?
So I do BJ's Carside to Go.
Oh, okay, all right, yep.
Where they bring it out to you.
Yep.
Because mainly I couldn't afford to go down sick. That was the big thing.
Yes, yeah.
It's not like I didn't want to go in there. I think I've been in like a handful of times, but I got to start going back because it's nice walking around a store. Walking.
That's
I'm
what
getting
grocery
so
shopping
little
is.
exercise.
Yeah, grocery shopping is because you're sitting here doing all these meetings for the rest
or
of
at
the
home
world.
doing the meetings or whatever. I got so
exactly.
little exercise. So
yeah, I know.
last night I was on the stair stepper at home during one of the meetings because I knew there was a long stretch where nobody was coming in or out of the meeting.
Right.
So for 15 minutes I get on the stair stepper at home and do that.
Which is great. That's great. And that's what that's exactly what we tell people though. We've said that. How many times have we said that? It's like, don't just say, well, I can't do any, I don't have an hour, so I won't do anything. No, if you have 10 minutes, do 10 minutes worth. That's better than nothing.
There's a bunny hopping across the parking lot.
Oh.
I see a little bunny.
Oh. Well, you've got
He was heading over towards culinary.
You've got the great view over there. Okay, we have to do a birthday before we play our first song. So today, it is June 2nd today. It is the birthday of the late Johnny Weissmuller, Olympic swimmer and actor. He was born on this day in 1904 in Friedorf, what is now Romania, but then was Austria-Hungary. His death date was January 20th, 1984. He died at the age of 79. Johnny Weissmuller's family emigrated to America when Johnny was just 1 year old. And because he was born in Austria-Hungary, and I have to say this because it was part of his bio, his Hungarian name is János. That's how it's pronounced. I would know that because I'm Hungarian and, we know these things. But he Americanized it, obviously, to Johnny. Fullerton Beach on Lake Michigan is where Johnny's love for swimming took off, having his first swimming lessons there. He excelled immediately and began entering and winning every race he could. When Weissmuller was 11 years old, he lied to join the YMCA, which had a 12-year-old minimum rule to join. He won every swimming race he entered and also excelled at running and high jumping. It wouldn't be long before he was on one of the best swim teams in the country, the Illinois Athletic Club, and the rest is history. Weissmuller won 5 Olympic gold medals and 1 bronze medal, 52 United States national championships, and set 67 world records. He was the first man to swim the 100-meter freestyle in under 1 minute and the 440-yard freestyle in under 5 minutes. He never lost a race and retired with an unbeaten amateur record. In 1950, Johnny Weissmuller was selected by the Associated Press as the greatest swimmer of the first half of the 20th century. In 1932, Weissmuller played the role of Tarzan in Tarzan the Ape Man. He went on to star in 5 sequels. The famous Tarzan yell was created by, you'll love this, Pete, because you're a tech sound, light everything guy over there.
Okay.
The famous Tarzan yell was created by sound recordist Douglas Shearer. Shearer recorded Johnny's normal yell, but manipulated it and played it in reverse to create the Tarzan yell. So there you have it.
Interesting, okay.
Yeah, way back in, when was that? 1932.
Yep.
So that was pretty cool. So happy birthday to the late Johnny Weissmuller. So let's take a short break because it's already 6:15. I don't know how that happened. But at 6:15, you're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC cable channel 15. We are going to play the song You'll Be in My Heart by Phil Collins, and it is from the Disney Tarzan soundtrack. We'll be back.
Don't stop your crying, it will be alright. Just take my hand, hold it tight. I will protect you from all around you. I will be here, don't you cry. For one so small, you seem so strong. My arms will hold you, keep you safe and warm. This bond between us can't be broken. I will be here, don't you cry. 'Cause you'll be in my heart. Yes, you'll be in my heart. From this day on, now and forevermore. You'll be in my heart, no matter what they say. You'll be here in my heart, always. Why can't they understand the way we feel? They just don't trust what they can't explain. Well, I know we're different, but deep inside us, we're not that different at all. And you'll be in my heart. Yes, you'll be in my heart. From this day on, now and forevermore. look over your shoulder. Just look over your shoulder. I'll be there always.
Support for community radio on WSKB provided by Westfield Electroplating. Employing over 140 skilled platers, painters, and technicians, Westfield Electroplating was founded in 1946 and was the first company in the country to achieve National Aerospace and Defense Contractor Program accreditation, proudly maintaining that status for over a decade. Westfield Electroplating provides over 50 quality finishes to meet your corrosion, cosmetic, or performance needs. On the web at www.westfieldplating.com or 413-568-3716. Westfield Electroplating, putting the finishing touches on technology.
Hi, it's Bob Plass, and I have Wow, It's Tuesday, every Tuesday, 6 to 8. Wow, it's Tuesday.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
I did it!
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 6:21. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I'm in the studio this morning with the chairman of the board, producer Pete Coles. Good morning again, Pete.
Good morning. I don't think I'm ever going to have Bob redo that ad.
You know
I think
what,
that's
Pete? I'm so glad you said that because I just wanted to say, that was my first thought was I just wanted to say, you know what? Makes me laugh every time I hear it. It's like every time I hear it, it's like I'm hearing it for the first time. So no, you can't ever have him redo that because that was perfect. I did it. I mean, so proud of himself.
Right.
Yeah.
That was the whole point. It's
Yeah,
like,
so proud of himself.
and it was spontaneous, and I'm like, I'm not editing that out.
And Jay's laugh. I mean, the whole thing was just, it was perfect. Perfect. You couldn't write that script any better. So Pedro, where were you? I know you were not at the Pride flag raising. Kenny Stomsky did that. So thank you to Ken for being there. He did a great job because I know you had some meetings last night. What was going on
right.
last night?
So I saw, like, all right, there's 4 meetings. So I contacted Mark.
God.
I contacted Mark, and he says, I'll take 2 of them. You take 2 of them. Okay.
Wow.
So I look at one of them as fire commission, and I'm like, and then I look at the agenda, and I'm like, oh crap, that's actually at Station 2, and they scheduled the Zoom, so that means I have to broadcast it from Station 2.
Ew.
Because they've been meeting there. They've been meeting in person,
Now,
but with no
where's-
public involved.
Where's Station
Little
2?
River.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah.
So they've been meeting in person the whole time,
Okay.
but just them.
Yes.
So they can
Understood.
control the situation, and it works. But that means I have to go there and broadcast it. I can't do it from my house. And I'm like, all right, well, there's enough time between that and the Water Commission meeting at 7, so hopefully they get done quick and I can get out of there and go home. Otherwise, I'm stuck doing the Water Commission meeting at Station 2
At the fire department.
until it's over, which I can do, but I would have been there till 9 o'clock last night
Yeah.
because that's when the Water Commission
Oh
got
my
finished.
God, Pete, are you kidding me?
No, you got to do what you got to do.
Yes, I know.
I mean, I'm still prepping for graduation. Kenny and I mounted a microwave dish to the baseball press box so we can have a permanent link between baseball and football. We did that yesterday.
Okay.
And I got some equipment to drop in there to get ready for graduation Thursday and Friday.
Unbelievable. I just want you to know, Pete.
And they finally, Karen Fanion finally put up something in the broadcast calendar, no meetings, vote graduation. I'm going to put something in no meetings on Friday, no meetings, WHS graduation. I'm going to put that in there too.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Good idea. Good idea.
Oh,
Well,
good
I just
Lord.
wanted to tell you, and I told Kenny this last night. So we had our Friends of the Westfield Senior Center annual meeting yesterday afternoon. It was done virtually. And of course, you're not involved because that's not a city organization. So you didn't have to worry about that.
Right.
Tom Keenan organized that one. And we did it through a Google Meet. And when people call in, I don't know who's on the phone, because you just see the last 4 digits of a phone number. Well, it turns out that the mayor was on that call because he is a member of the Friends group. And so anyway, he was listening in. I didn't know that. But anyway, when I gave my report, I was listing all the stuff that we did. Of course, all the cable channel 15 programming. And I went through everything, Pete. I listed, do you realize we do 8 different fitness programs? 4 of those you've done multiple taping sessions. You know,
Yep.
like some of them they've come in and they've done refresh
Chair yoga,
tapes. Yup,
yoga.
yoga and Gary's. You did 3 for him,
Three
and
for
Becca Perone, our Zumba Gold.
did
You
two,
did
yep.
2. Yep. So we talked about that, and obviously Harry Rocks host the show that he hosts for us. All the entertainment, I listed it all and everything.
Did you see John Lucido's program?
I not yet.
Oh, it came out
Not
pretty
yet.
good.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. So we actually talked about that. But Kathy Millis, when she gave her report, she's the treasurer and the clerk, but she had different reports to give. And one of the things she talked about was the the volunteers and so forth. And so when we were talking about the cable program, she was talking about Kenny and Jay. And
Sure.
and just everything that they've helped you with, and I told Kenny last night when I saw him at the Pride flag raising that I said, your name, you, P, and J, all of your names were mentioned on more than one occasion during that annual meeting. And I said to Kenny, I said I was really happy to know that the mayor was on that call, because when we did the question and answer period, Tom Keenan must have been talking with the mayor when I was helping to get something set up at the senior center before we started, so I didn't realize he was on. And Tom asked him, he said, would you like to say a few words? And the mayor said, I would. And he said, I'm listening to this, like incredible laundry list of accomplishments over the last year. And, he just, of course, thanked everyone involved and the staff and, Channel 15 and everyone. So, it was nice to know that he
Got a lot
heard all
done.
of that. Yeah, we have gotten an amazing amount done. And I've had people, Pete, that are get very nervous and have called. They've actually called to ask us, well, are you going to not do anything on Channel 15 anymore because you're, starting to do programs at the senior center? And I said, no, as far as I'm concerned, we're keeping those. As I said, as long as Pete, has the space for them and the time during the day.
They're fine with me because
Yeah,
that's what the mission is here.
absolutely.
It's what the mission is.
Because I had another person come up to me last night at the
Maybe we
flag
could even
raising.
come over and start taping some of the
I
in-person
know.
classes.
I would love to do that.
Or figure out a way to do that.
Yep. Yeah.
But
Yep.
we need
Yep.
to sit down and talk
Yep.
about where you're doing.
We'll
and stuff
figure
like
that out. Yep, we'll absolutely figure that out. But I had somebody who came up to me at the flag raising last night and said she does the program. She goes, oh, I do the exercises with your husband and your daughter, twice a week. And I love to hear that. I just think that's great because you know what? For some people, I have another woman who her husband uses a wheelchair. She can't get to the senior center. She's a caregiver. She said, but twice a week, 3 times a week, they do different programs, chair yoga. They'll do Gary and Grace, what they can do. And she said, I wheel them in front of the TV and we do our exercises. And, as you said, Pete, that's what it's all about. So I think that's one of the silver linings, if you will, of COVID. We've really come to rely on our, our cable channel 15. What would we do without it? All right, let's do a couple more birthdays. Today is the birthday of Charlie Watts. Anybody who's a Rolling Stones fan knows that Charlie Watts is the drummer for the Rolling Stones. He was born on this day in 1941 in London, England. I can't believe Charlie Watts is 80 years old today. He's an English drummer, best known as a member, as I said, of the Rolling Stones since 1963. Originally trained as a graphic artist. He started playing drums in London's rhythm and blues clubs where he met Brian Jones, Mick Jagger, and Keith Richards. In January of 1963, he joined their fledgling group, the Rolling Stones, as drummer while doubling as designer of their record sleeves and tour stages. Watts has been the only Rolling Stones member other than Jagger or Richards to have been featured on all of their studio albums. He cites jazz as a major influence on his drumming style. In 2006, Watts was elected into the Modern Drummer Hall of Fame. In the same year, Vanity Fair elected him into the International Best Dressed List Hall of Fame. Who knew? In 2016, he was ranked 12th on Rolling Stone's 100 Greatest Drummers of All Time list. So happy 80th birthday to Charlie Watts. It is also the birthday of Mickey Steele, songwriter, bassist, born June 2nd, 1955 in Pasadena, California. She is 66 years old today. Born Susan Nancy Thomas, she goes by Michael or Mickey Steele. She's an American bassist, guitarist, songwriter, and singer, best known as the bass player for the Bangles. Under the name Mickey Steele, she was a founding member of the Runaways, but left in 1975, shortly before the band's major label debut. For the next several years, she played with various other musical groups for short periods of time. In 1983, Steele replaced original bassist Annette Zelinskis as a member of the Bangles. Steele joined just in time to play on the band's first full-length album, All Over the Place. She remained with the Bangles throughout the high point of their career, contributing as bassist, vocalist, and songwriter until the band's dissolution in 1989. She rejoined the band for a 2003 reunion album, Doll Revolution, and toured with them until the following year. Hits by the Bangles include Manic Monday, Walk Like an Egyptian, and Eternal Flame. So happy birthday to Mickey Steele. And with that, I'll save the next one for our next break because the next one is a little involved and kind of cool. It is 6:31. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM, Radio for the Westfield Masses, and WCPC Cable Channel 15. We're going to listen to, in honor of Charlie Watts, one of my favorite Stones songs, which is, and the one that within the last 2 weeks, this is how I felt. That's why I chose this song. 19th Nervous Breakdown. Here we go by the Stones.
Stop. Look around. Here it comes.
Underwriting support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Greater Westfield Chamber of Commerce, the voice of business for the Greater Westfield communities. Informing, educating, advocating, the Chamber provides opportunities for members to make meaningful connections on local, regional, and state levels. For more information on the Chamber's many events, workshops, and programs, as well as the benefits of membership, visit westfieldbiz.org. The Chamber focuses on the most important economy, yours.
Listen to me, Michael Buster McMahon, Mondays 8 to 10 a.m. to learn the stories behind your favorite songs. Or don't. I'm not the boss of you.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB. Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfields. It is 6:36. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC cable channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I am your Wake Up Wednesday host. Pete Coles and I are in the studio together this morning. Good morning, Pete.
Hey, what can I say? We have a cast of characters around here.
I guess so,
Good morning.
right? Oh, my goodness. You know, it was so funny. That song, thank you to the Rolling Stones for really, nailing it for how... I don't know how, I'm not sure if that's how you feel, Pete, but man, that's how I've been feeling for the last couple of weeks.
Yes, because it just feels like, we're still grinding and everybody else is kind of getting back to normal.
Exactly.
But our grind continues.
And yes, it does.
And that's what it feels like. It just feels like I literally told people no for stuff this week because I was like, no, I just have too much on my plate.
Yeah.
Too much.
Yeah. We've got platters over here. We've
Monday
got
actually
Thanksgiving
went out.
platters that are.
A friend of mine was playing at Walk on Water, the old Louis B's over in Southwick.
Yeah.
So we had dinner over on their patio,
Nice.
overlooking Congamon,
Nice.
listening to a good country band.
Nice.
And I dragged my girlfriend out and one of her friends, and they had a great time.
Yeah. Well.
But you got to literally just do that. It's like,
I know.
yeah, was I tired? Yeah, because I got forced into a double on Sunday at Mount Holyoke. So was I tired? Yes. But did I want to go out? Yes. I need some
you were
sunlight.
It was worth it. I know. Yeah, exactly.
Fresh air.
All right, so I have to talk about this next birthday because the timing of this was so interesting. So it is the birthday of the late Gilbert Baker, who was a gay activist. He was born June 2nd, 1951 in Chanute, Kansas. He passed away March 31st, 2017, just a few years ago, at the age of 65. So Gilbert Baker was an American artist, gay rights activist, and designer of the rainbow flag, which we just raised at City Hall last night.
Gotcha.
A worldwide symbol of LGBTQ pride. His flag became widely associated with LGBT rights, causes, a symbol of gay pride that has become ubiquitous in the decades since its debut. In 2015, the Museum of Modern Art ranked the rainbow flag as an internationally recognized symbol as important as the recycling symbol. Baker first created the rainbow flag with a collective in 1978. He refused to trademark it, seeing it as a symbol that was for the LGBT community. A year later, Baker began work at Paramount Flag Company in San Francisco. He designed displays for Dianne Feinstein, the Premier of China, the presidents of France, Venezuela, and the Philippines, the King of Spain, and many others. He also designed creations for numerous civic events and San Francisco Gay Pride. In 1984, he designed flags for the Democratic National Convention. The colors on the rainbow flag reflect the diversity of the LGBT community. When Baker raised the first rainbow flags at San Francisco Pride, it comprised 8 symbolic colors. Bob Plass and I were discussing this last night. I was schooling Bob Plass on
that's not that hard.
The pride flag. The pride flag. Yeah, but the pride flag. I mean, Pete, I'm straight. So that was
I know.
So I told Bob, I said, so originally the flag had 8 colors. Hot pink for sex, red for life, orange for healing, yellow for sunlight, green for nature, turquoise for magic/art, indigo for serenity, and violet for spirit. However, when they went to like mass produce them, it was way too expensive to do all 8 colors because they had to import some of the colors. So they took out the hot pink and the turquoise. And the gay pride flag now has 6 colors, but that was why it originally had 8. Now it has 6, and of course now it's the pride flag, the pride progress flag, which Bob talked about yesterday on his show. Baker died at home in his sleep from cardiovascular disease, and upon his death, California State Senator Scott Weiner said Baker helped define the modern LGBT movement. So happy birthday to the late Gilbert Baker. And I'll tell you something else. When I said to Bob Plass last night, hey, guess whose birthday it is tomorrow? And I told him, he didn't know who Gilbert Baker was. And I assume that every person in the LGBTQ community would know that, and maybe others would have. Or I don't know.
I can bust Bob a little bit. He leads with his heart.
Oh, he is just.
Sometimes not always with his brain.
Absolutely love him. But you know what? He was so interested in when I told him that. I said, it originally had 8 colors, and that made so much sense because you're trying to mass produce this. You can't make it too expensive. So
I've known Bob long enough where I can tease him like that.
Absolutely.
Even on the air, he doesn't.
Absolutely.
He'll never hear this anyway.
Such a wonderful person. Yeah, no, he's sleeping. Are you kidding? Sure, I got up for his show, but, he's sleeping through mine.
I told him, do like Kenny does. He watches the replays during the afternoon when they come out on YouTube.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. So the next one, this next birthday is important. I'll tell you why. So later on in the show, next hour, we have our resident chiropractic physician, Dr. Gary Gorman, will be joining us because it is the first Wednesday of the month. And this one is, if Gary may have the radio turned on by now, but it is the birthday of actor Jerry Mathers. He was born June 2nd, 1948 in Sioux City, Iowa. He's 73 years old today. So in a minute, I'll tell you why that's significant to my husband. But Gerald Patrick Mathers is best known for his role in the television sitcom Leave It to Beaver, originally broadcast from 1957 to 1963. Mathers played Theodore Beaver Cleaver, the younger son of the suburban couple June and Ward Cleaver, played by Barbara Billingsley and Hugh Beaumont, and the brother of Wally Cleaver, played by Tony Dow. Mathers began his career at the age of 2 when he appeared as a child model for a department store ad. Soon after, he starred in a commercial for Pet Milk, remember the evaporated milk, opposite, you'll love this, vaudeville comedian Ed Wynn. Ed Wynn, I Love to Laugh, Uncle Albert of Mary Poppins fame, that Ed Wynn, so they were in this commercial together. Mathers states that he got the role of Beaver Cleaver, I love this, after telling the show's producers he would rather be at his Cub Scout meeting than audition for the part. The producers found his candor appealing and perfect for the role of Beaver.
There you go.
So Mathers played the Beaver, for 6 years, appearing in all 234 episodes of the series. This I thought was interesting, Pete. He was the first child actor to ever have a deal made on his behalf to get a percentage of the merchandising revenue from a television show. Indeed, Leave It to Beaver still generates revenue more than a half a century after its original production run. Now, the reason that this is so significant to my husband, Gary, is because if you look at pictures of Gary in high school with the curly hair, he looks exactly like Tony Dow, who played Beaver's older brother, Wally.
Yep.
Gary's nickname in high school was Wally. From
should have
Wally,
cashed in on that.
From Wally Cleaver. And
should have cashed in.
And you know what, Pete? It's so funny. To this day, we still have high school friends that refer to Gary as Wally. I mean, it's so funny.
I'll sign autographs.
Oh my God, he absolutely did look like him. So anyway, happy birthday to Jerry Mathers, the Beaver. We'll do one more before we take a break. It is also the birthday of the late Edward Elgar, composer, born June 2nd, 1857 in the United Kingdom, died in 1934 at the age of 76. I figured it was an appropriate time of year for this one when you find out what he did. Edward Elgar was an English composer, and many of his works have entered the British and international classical concert repertoire. Among his best-known compositions are orchestral works including the Pomp and Circumstance marches. And with graduations, right? When are the tomorrow night and Friday night, right, Pete? There you go, Pomp and Circumstance. He also composed the Coronation Ode, concertos for violin and cello, and 2 symphonies. Although Elgar is often regarded as a typically English composer, most of his musical influences were not from England, but from continental Europe. He felt himself to be an outsider, not only musically, but socially. In musical circles dominated by academics, he was a self-taught composer. In Protestant Britain, his Roman Catholicism was regarded with suspicion in some quarters. And in the class-conscious society of Victorian and Edwardian Britain, he was acutely sensitive about his humble origins, even after he received recognition. So happy birthday to the composer who developed and who wrote Pomp and Circumstance, Edward Elgar. And you'll be hearing a lot of that Pomp and Circumstance over the next couple of nights. All right, it is 6:46. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC cable channel 15. When we come back, it is National First Ladies Day, so we have to talk about that because that's really pretty fascinating. Lots of trivia in that one too. But in the meantime, in honor of the birthday of Mickey Steele from the Bengals, we're going to listen to Walk Like an Egyptian. We'll be back.
Slide feet up the street, bend your back, shift your arm, then you pull it back. Legs hard, you know. So strike a pose on a Cadillac. If you wanna find all the cops, they're hanging out in the donut shop. They sing and dance. They spin the club, cruise down the block. All the Japanese with their yen, the party boys call the Kremlin, and the Chinese know. They walk the line like Egyptian. All the cops in the donut shop say. Walk like an Egyptian. Walk like an Egyptian.
Support for community radio on WSKB is provided by Betts Plumbing and Heating Supply Company, an independent, family-owned wholesaler serving Westfield for over 50 years, specializing in plumbing, heating, and industrial piping supplies. On the web at bettsplumbing.com or at 14 Coleman Avenue in Westfield. Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Bay State Dental. Comprehensive dentistry at 14 convenient locations in Springfield, Chicopee, Longmeadow, West Springfield, Belchertown, East Longmeadow, Ludlow, Northampton, Greenfield, and Wilbraham, as well as 29 Broad Street in Westfield. Bay State Dental makes it a priority to help you achieve and maintain the healthy smile you deserve. On the web at baystatedental.com.
I'm Mark Auerbach. Join me every Friday at 8 a.m. for Arts Beat, where you'll meet interesting actors, directors, designers, and musicians here in Western New England.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB. Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 6:51. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I'm in the studio this morning with the chairman of the board, producer Pete Coles. Good morning again, Pete.
Good morning. It might get a little loud in here. They're going to be doing some work up in the ceiling.
I was just going to say that, and we are not. It's not just Pete and me in the studio this morning. We have some workers out there that I can see through the glass.
The electrician for the school department is here doing some work.
Gotcha. Okay.
I think he's got to install our smoke detector properly because it's been up, kind of hanging up there in the ceiling.
Yeah, well, doing that properly would be a good idea since we've done how many programs on fire safety on this show? So
well, the ones in here work just fine. It was the one in the hallway.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then I told him about my breaker that keeps tripping.
Oh, well, good. Yeah, while you're in the neighborhood, as my mother would say, it shouldn't be a total loss.
Well, I didn't know if the custodians have to put in a work order for it, but
yeah.
If you show me how to do it, I'll do it. I don't care.
Well, shake their hand off for them, some water or something.
Yeah,
maybe they'll do it for you.
Breaker repair, that's not a big deal.
All right, so today is June 2nd. It is National First Ladies Day. So National First Ladies Day on June 2nd commemorates the very first Lady of the United States and all those who followed in her footsteps.
Martha Washington?
Yes, it's a day to recognize the role the First Ladies have played in molding our nation. Since 1789, a First Lady has accompanied every president, starting with Martha Washington, who was born on June 2nd, 1731. That's why today is National First Ladies Day. Okay. It's Martha Washington's birthday. First ladies have helped set a tone in the highest office of the land. Even the country's only bachelor president, and I could never remember who this was. I knew there was one.
It was Taft?
No, it was James Buchanan.
Okay.
Required someone to act as hostess. Harriet Lane, the president's niece, stepped into the role of the First Lady. She presented a well-ordered White House with tact and grace. Lane isn't the only relative to serve in the role of the First Lady. Several other presidents held office as widowers, requiring someone to step into the role as a de facto First Lady also. While they aren't elected, many of them campaign alongside their spouse. Others have served as elected or appointed officials in many different capacities. First ladies have been teachers, Girl Scouts, educated, and adventurous. Another First Lady with a unique history is Abigail Adams. And get a load of this, Pete. Oh, if Gary's listening, my secret will be out. But
she's from Massachusetts.
This question was on Jeopardy last night, and I knew it. And Gary was like, "Wow, how did you know that?" Well, I knew it because I just researched it. But
yeah, right, sure.
She was the first to live in the White House when John Adams was elected the second president of the United States. And Adams was also the mother of another president, John Quincy Adams. First Lady Barbara Bush also repeated that circumstance 176 years later when her son George W. Bush was elected. So both the First Lady and the mother of a president. So that's where those were the only two. Tradition and firsts. While nearly every First Lady since Martha Washington has been dedicated to a charitable cause, Lady Bird Johnson, married to Lyndon B. Johnson, made it a formal platform. Since then, the country has come to expect the next First Lady to continue the tradition. Abigail Fillmore was the first teacher to ascend to the role of the First Lady. The most recent was Laura Bush. While there are many firsts in the world of First Ladies, two recent ones include the first African American and the first to earn a doctorate degree, Michelle Obama and Dr. Jill Biden. And I didn't realize that Jill Biden was the first First Lady to hold a doctorate degree. So congratulations to those two. That's pretty special. So those are our birthdays and special days today. So as I mentioned earlier, second hour, Dr. Gary Gorman will be with us. He's actually, he's been working on his 7 tips for a balanced life, and we have, believe it or not, come to the end of the list. And today we will be talking about number 7 on his list. So stay tuned and he'll fill you in on that. In the meantime, we have a whole lot of stuff to go over here, Pete, because this weekend, the Voice of Experience newsletter came out in print. This is the June edition. This is so packed with information. I can't even begin to tell you. This is just crazy because we have started, as we say in the Council on Aging business, scaling up operations. That's the term we're all using.
Okay.
We're not using reopening because no one's really thrown the doors open and said, come on in, it's business as usual. We're not there yet. That won't happen for several months, but we are scaling up operations, all of the senior centers. So big note from the director on the front page. And, usually pages 4 and 5, we've been put in the old days, we used to have our calendar in there. And then during COVID, we had photo spreads in there. But this month it is, again, packed with information on under the tent programming, under the roof programming, and at the curb programming. So that's how we're billing this. So Pete had asked earlier about masks and what what the senior center policy was. So just some basic protocol for what we're doing right now at the senior center. So this is just a little bit of a brief laundry list of what's happening in June in terms of just COVID protocols. So first of all, anyone who wants to participate in any of the senior center programs or activities must register in advance. We are only doing registration in advance for all of the programs initially. All of the time frames for when you can call and register are listed in the June newsletter. You have to get the newsletter. That's the only way you're going to. If you want to participate in anything at the senior center in the next month or two, you gotta get the newsletter. It's all in there. Anyone who wants to participate in any senior center program or activity must sign an updated release of liability form. So we have a new release of liability form. In the old days, before COVID, we used to just have you sign that if you were participating in fitness programs. Now everybody has to sign that. And I want to thank Jack Fitzgerald, Attorney Jack Fitzgerald from the Law Department, for helping to update that liability form. Another thing, super important, you have to carefully follow all of the parking lot traffic flow patterns. So we are establishing some new traffic patterns because we're doing some programs outside, some programs inside, and we're still doing lunches curbside. It's very important that we have a steady traffic flow. So that nobody gets hit. I don't want any cars hitting any cars, and I certainly don't want any cars hitting any pedestrians. So we have a designated entrance and exit now that we're using. The far entrance off of Murphy Circle, that is the only way to come into the senior center, and the exit will be the area outside, just off of Noble Street. So it seems, as Gary said, it seems a little
counterintuitive.
Yes, thank you, Pete. That was exactly the word I was going to use, counterintuitive. However, that flow works the best for how we have things set up. I want to thank Casey Berube and the DPW team. They ordered sign, and Jay Vinsky. Jay Vinsky came down, the city planner. He helped to diagram the signs that we needed, what they needed to say, arrows that are going to get painted.
Super organized.
Oh my gosh.
Jay, I think Jay's funny because you watch him during a meeting, And I think he can just visualize projects
I think so
in his
too.
head from looking at plans and stuff.
Yes.
In space.
Yes, I think so too, Pete. He
He
was
just has a
absolutely
mind
wonder.
where you could see it in his brain. You know, somebody's
Yeah.
talking about something, and he'll visualize it and goes, "Okay, I understand what you're saying."
Exactly, and that's what
And
I
then
did.
he's able to explain it.
Yep. I said, well, the thing
like,
for us was like, I sent him an email. I said, this is what we want to do. He came down, and by the time he came down, he already had, no, he came down, and then he
probably had
said, I'm going to do a plan for you.
Sketch
and,
it, yeah.
yep. And then 2 hours later, he
Yeah.
emails me this plan with, arrows. Okay, we need signs here. These signs need to say this. Those signs need, so then.
Super impressed by a lot of city employees doing all these
Awesome.
meetings.
Yes. Yes.
Like super impressed.
Yes, I know. He's amazing, and he's a quiet guy, so he's very
Right,
non-assuming.
It's like E.F. Hutton.
Yeah, yes, exactly. Remember the old E.F. Hutton commercials? I know what Pete's talking about. When E.F. Hutton speaks, everybody listens.
Right.
We used to say that. I used
true.
to say that about my father because my mother was very outspoken and gregarious, and does same as me. Talks with her. Everybody in my family, all my brothers, but my dad was the quiet one. And we used to say that about him. It's like, yep, my dad is like E.F. Hutton. When he says something, everybody shut up because, it's important. But it was the same with Jay. So Jay did the diagram for us, and then Casey Baruby
You can
came
be embarrassed
down
of talking about him like that.
I know. That's okay. He's fantastic at what he
is
does.
fantastic.
We have, and I mean, I would think that the taxpayers would want to know that the people that are running the show as your department heads and your city employees they are top notch. I'm so
Absolutely.
impressed, and I'm humbled to be a part of this group because they're amazing.
Yeah.
They really are. So Casey came down, and the signs have been ordered. And he texted me on Friday, late Friday afternoon before the holiday weekend, and said the signs are in. So they are hoping to get the signs up and the arrows painted in the parking lot. We're crossing our fingers by the end of the week, but it should be within the next week or so. So you'll definitely see those. But in the meantime, I have the traffic flow patterns listed in the Senior Center Voice of Experience newsletter. As I mentioned, meals will continue to be offered curbside. Now my curbside meal people, Pete, are starting to panic. Aren't you going to keep doing this? And we are through June and probably through July.
Get you through the summer.
Yeah.
I'm kind of honestly, I know people are going to be mad at me, but I'm kind of hoping they do extend the open meeting law waiver until September.
Yes.
Just to get us through the summer.
I agree. As a matter of fact,
I know there's some people that are bummed, and I know City Council's going back July 1st. But in general,
yep.
that would be better for me getting through the summer.
Pete, I'm right there with you. And I
as much as I love doing these meetings.
Well, you know what, though? Like, we have a department head meeting in 2 weeks. I looked at the calendar. I put it down on my calendar, but it's next week. So it's the second Tuesday of the month. And then I looked at the invite again, and I said, oh, it's in person. It's in room 201. Well, that's brown bag day for me. I can't do that because when we did it virtually, I could run inside. It would take me 30 seconds. I could leave brown bag a little early. Mary Lou would come and take my place. I'd run inside, jump on my computer. Here I am. But for me to...
Well, I think that they've installed...
I mean,
if we talk to the mayor, because I think they've installed Zoom on the...
Because that would be great.
On the workstations in there, and they put a USB conference room camera in there.
Okay.
So talk to the mayor.
I'll send an email. I'm going to send an email and say, listen, if I can Zoom in, then I can get there and almost on time. I might be a few minutes late, but if it's at City Hall,
well, because I'm here too. It's the other thing. I'm here.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, we'll see what happens there. But anyway, meals will continue, and we are, as I said to Pete before, mask wearing is optional, and use your best judgment. But if you have not been vaccinated, please wear your mask, for your own protection. Okay, it is 7:04. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC cable channel 15. We'll take our top of the hour break, and we'll be back.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Dunkin' Donut Shops of Westfield and the Sardinia family. It's nice to know that even as the world changes, Dunkin' Coffee remains the same at 7 convenient locations throughout Westfield.
Join us every Thursday morning
from 6 until at least 7:30.
Check out the Bobby G and Company Show
right here on WSKB 89.5
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB. Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 7:07. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I'm in the studio this morning with the chairman of the board, producer Pete Coles. Good morning again, Pete.
Good morning.
So I want to make this announcement right now. This morning, under the tent, we are doing Carol Palmer's Totally Fun Fitness. So Carol will be doing this program in person. This one was a little tricky for us to advertise because Carol hadn't done this program. She's only done it on Cable Channel 15. So we didn't have a list of people to call and say, hey, do you want to participate in the first Under the Tent class with Carol? Because we don't know who's watching. So, and because of the holiday
I did run
weekend.
that thingy there.
Yes, you did. And people saw it. But there were a few people. I saw one person last night and she said, oh, I wanted to sign up for that. And I missed the registration. I forgot because, she told me, she said, I saw it scrolled. So I'm saying this because we only have a few people that signed up for this morning's class. It goes from 9 to 10 o'clock this morning. If you want to participate in Carol's class, because you do have to pre-register, call the Senior Center right now and leave a message on the main line with Mary Kohut. Mary will take that message and just leave your name and your phone number and just let her know that you want to participate this morning, and then just come on over at 9 o'clock or a little before 9 so we can get you, everybody has to sign the release form. So the number at the Senior Center is 562-6435. And again, that class is this morning from 9 to 10. It's a beautiful morning out there. It's a great morning for the class. And I think our cap is like 16 people. So we have some space. So if you missed the registration, which was yesterday, again, that one was a little messed up because of the holiday. And the only reason I'm doing this is because Carol's only teaching that class on the first and last Wednesday of the month right now under the tent. So if you miss it today, you got to wait until, the end of the month. So for those of you who would like to participate, call Mary, my clerk, at the Senior Center this morning, 562-6435, and just let her know that you'd like to participate in the class this morning at 9 o'clock. And we'll make that exception for those who didn't get the message. The other thing is I want to make sure that people know how to get the newsletter because, as I said, the June issue has all of the registration times. It has, what we're doing inside the building, what we're doing under the tent, what we're doing at the curb. So you can, first of all, you can stop by the Senior Center. But I have to tell, we have people that are trying to open up the Dropbox in order to get the newsletter. Not the same thing. The newsletter is located, there's a very large bin. It's actually a bin that you normally store like patio cushions in. So you lift the top of it. It's got a dark green top to it. And it's right outside the door of the Senior Center. That's where the newsletters are. So if you lift up the top of that, that's where the newsletters are. We keep that stocked. We noticed that there were a lot of them missing, which was great. So people have been stopping by to get them. Grab them for your friends. You can take as many as you want. As long as you're passing them out to people, feel free. And we will continue to keep putting them in there. You can get the newsletter online. So you want to go to the city website and under departments, click on Council on Aging. If you scroll down to the bottom, there's just a link and it's going to say for the latest newsletter, click here. Just click on that and it'll bring up the whole newsletter. Somebody was complaining because we didn't get it up online fast enough. It was up online yesterday morning, first thing when I got here. So remember, folks, it was a holiday weekend. That's why everything got a little messed up. So if you have no other way to get it, it's also out. It's at the pharmacies. We do deliveries. It goes out to the home delivered meal folks. It went out to the Arbors in Armbrook Village. And, we get it out as much in the community as we can. But if you don't have any other way, send me a self-addressed stamped envelope, and I will make sure that we mail you one. So under the roof, we are going to be doing chess, the Art Unlimited class, the Sassy Stitchers Knit and Crochet group, the Peacemakers Quilting group, and on June 11th, we're going to be doing Mike's Celebration Gift Card Bingo. And thank you to the sponsor. That was former Police Captain Mike McCabe is sponsoring that bingo game. And there will be, the prizes are all gift cards, so that should be a lot of fun. So that's going to be next Friday. But again, the registration times, because there are certain times and days that you're going to register for these things, all in the newsletter on pages 4 and 5. So please follow that carefully. We've mentioned traffic flow, and not just traffic flow, but also parking. So you're going to be coming in the Murphy Circle entrance. If you are participating in either an under the tent program or an inside program, you're going to go to the right and you're going to park along any of those spaces on the Noble Street side. So, and then to the left where the tent is, that's where the staff is parking. So we're leaving you the choice spots closest to the building and the easiest to get out, because then you're going to exit out off of Noble Street. If you're coming for lunches, you're going to same thing that you've always done, go to the left, and everybody who's been for lunches, they know what to do. And speaking of lunches, I was talking to Hope Tremblay last night, the editor of the Westfield News, and I said, Hope, I have some photos to send to you, so I promise I will get those out today. Pete, last week we had our Mother's Day Come Fly With Me luncheon. That was where we set up the parking lot as an airport. It was absolutely hysterical. It was so much fun. So we had, first of all, I had Barbara Martone, my volunteer extraordinaire, and Alex Hibbert, our maintenance guy. So they were entrance and exit. So they had their yellow vests and they were doing their, go here, go there, just like the airport guys do. And then we had Gary, who was the pilot, and he had his captain's badge. We all had our wings on, like we all had these little wings that Joyce Peregrine had made for us. Gary had his hat on. And I told Mike McCabe, who was giving out the gifts for the moms, I said, well, you're the co-pilot, so dress appropriately. So he shows up in a dark, a navy suit with a tie. I mean, he looked perfect. And Gary and Mike had their aviator glasses. And then the rest of us, Joanne Ortegas, Mary Lou, myself, and Joyce Peregrine, we were flight attendants. So we had our, white top, dark pants, and our scarf for Silver Airlines. And I got to say, we had so much fun. The seniors dressed up as if they were like going on vacation. So we had people wearing, like Hawaiian shirts. Somebody came with her Hawaiian lei. We had people wearing baseball caps and, resort T-shirts. It was a lot. It was a lot of fun. It was a whole lot of fun. So thank you to,
cool.
Yeah, it was. So thanks to everybody who participated. We got some good pictures, and we had signage. Joyce Peregrine had made signs for us, like arrival, departure, baggage, check-in. So we had those all over the parking lot. So it was a lot of fun. So thanks for everyone who participated in that. And it is 7:15. You are listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC cable channel 15. So when we come back, we have Dr. Gary Gorman, our resident chiropractic physician, who will be joining us for his 7th tip for a balanced life. But in the meantime, we're going to listen to Lady Gaga sing what I think has become the anthem for the gay pride community. And she's going to be singing I Was Born This Way. We'll be back.
It doesn't matter if you love him or capital H-I-M. Just put your paws up, 'cause you were born this way, baby. My mama told me when I was young, we're all born superstars. She rolled my hair, put my lipstick on, in a glass of her boudoir. There's nothing wrong with loving who you are, she said, 'cause he made you perfect, babe. So hold your head up, girl, and you'll go far. There's nothing left to say. I'm beautiful in my way, 'cause I make no mistakes. I'm on the right track, baby, I was born this way. Don't hurt yourself and regret, just love yourself instead. I'm on the right track, baby, I was born this way. Oh, there ain't no other way, baby, I was born this way. Baby, I was born this way. Just be a queen. Don't be a drag, just be a queen. Don't be a drag, just be a queen. Give yourself prudence and love your friends. Subway kid, rejoice your truth. In the religion of the insecure, I must be myself, respect my youth. A different law is not a sin. Believe capital H I am. Don't be a drag, just be a queen. Whether you're broke or evergreen, your black, white, beige, chola descent, you're Lebanese, you're Orient. Whether life's disabilities left you outcast but leader teased, rejoice and love yourself today, 'cause baby, you were born this way. No matter gay, straight or bi, lesbian, transgender life, I'm on the right track, baby, I was born to survive. No matter black, white, or beige, chola or Orient made, I'm on the right track, baby, I was born to be brave. I'm beautiful in my way, 'cause God makes no mistakes. I'm on the right track, baby, I was born this way. Don't judge yourself and regret, just love yourself and yourself. I'm on the right track, baby, I was born this way, yeah. Ooh, there ain't no other way, baby, I was born this way. Baby, I was born this way, born this way. There ain't no other way, baby, I was born now on the right track, baby, I was born this way. Hey, I was born this way. Hey, I'm on the right track, baby, I was born this way. Hey, I was born this way. Hey, I was born this way. Hey, I'm on the right track, baby, I was born this way. Hey.
Underwriting for Community Radio on WSKB is brought to you in part by Rockies. Over 30 convenient locations throughout Massachusetts, Rhode Island, New Hampshire, Connecticut, and Florida. One of the nation's largest ACE dealers. Expertise and great product selection in paint, hardware, lawn and garden. That's Rockies. Rock solid service since 1926. On the web at rockies.com.
Hi, this is Harry Rock, host of Rock on Westfield every fourth Wednesday at 8 a.m. Tune in for my view of this place I call home.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB. Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 7:20. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I am your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I am in the studio this morning with the chairman of the board, producer Pete Coles. Good morning again, Pete.
Good morning.
And do we have Dr. Gary Gorman on the line?
We do.
We do, and there he is. Good
Good morning.
How are you?
I am well, actually.
Good. Well, you were still snoozing when I left this morning, but you sound wide awake now.
Well, of course, you get about 6 minutes of sleep a night, so I mean, I require a little bit more than that. So,
Gary,
it
was really funny that it was so funny that you say that, because last night at the Pride flag raising, Dr. Graney's wife, or Judge Graney's wife, Susan Graney, was there, and she was the one, Gary, who was saying that she has enjoyed the video that you and Grace did, and she's been doing the exercises with you and Grace. So we were talking about that a little while, and she said to me, Tina, she goes, I don't know how you do everything that you do. And I said, well, if you talk to my husband will tell you that I get 6 minutes of sleep a night. And it's so funny, Gary, that because I know she watches this show too. So see, Susan, if you're watching, that's true. I didn't make it up. That's really what he says.
No, that is correct. Absolutely correct.
But
yes.
Anyway, but you're bright and bushy-tailed this morning.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Good.
I'm ready to rock and roll.
Okay, Sounds good. So, Gary, you have been, over the last many months, working on this 7 Tips for a Balanced Life protocol that you developed. And I have always said this isn't something that you read in a book, and, we're not doing one chapter at a time, but this is just really your own both professional and personal experience, for what has worked for you. And, and I think also so many years that you've worked with patients. I mean, you've been a chiropractor now for how many years, Gar?
Gosh, I think I'm into my 36th or 37th year. I was licensed in 1984, so
okay, so there you are.
37th year, yeah.
Many years of that, and just what you've learned over time with your patients. So we have gone through a lot, and probably next month we'll sort of do a summary of all of them and kind of pull this whole thing together. But in the meantime, we're at number 7. So what is number 7?
Yes, number 7, I labeled the community service and volunteerism, and I feel that's kind of like the icing on the cake. I mean, so we spent the first 6 of my tips kind of in self-help, and in doing self-help, we all know that we generally don't do this all by ourselves. We at some point in time in our life we have depended on certain organizations, certain institutions, certain individuals. And I feel number 7 of community service and volunteerism is to give yourself the opportunity to give back to someone or something or an organization that at some point in time in your life has benefited you and has helped you just get over a hump, get through a problem, get through a difficult time in your life, whatever the case may be. I mean, my goodness, Teen, you and I have been doing volunteer work since we were before college, but certainly in college when we were so active with Catholic Campus Ministry and, and doing outreach programs and things of that on campus. And we've continued doing that to this day. I equate it to, comes a point in time, and I don't know exactly, there's no specific date, that we go from wanting to receive to wanting to give. And, think about the earlier Christmases and birthdays. It's like,
that's a great example.
I can't wait to get I can't wait for Christmas so I can get all my presents.
Yes.
Well, somewhere along the line, that turns, and it's more like, I really don't need anything, but I really enjoy giving to you or giving to someone or to something. And I feel this is a good way to do it. As you know, running a big agency, it would be much more difficult to carry on all the programs and the functions that you do without having volunteers.
Oh, it would virtually be impossible. The senior centers would not run without volunteers. They couldn't. I mean, there would be so few programs that we could actually do if you were just relying on staff. So yeah, there's no doubt. And we're not alone in that. It's not just your senior centers, or there are lots and lots of, think of your food banks and your parish cupboard and your open pantries. A lot of those are volunteer driven. You have a few staff, you might have 1 or 2 or 3 staff, and then you might have 25 volunteers.
Right.
Right.
Exactly. And I think probably the first question that the listeners would go is, I don't know where to go or what to do, or how do I go about doing this? Well, I think really if you just take a little reflection time as to where have you been aided, or where have you been involved with something or someone in the past, whatever that may be. I remember my father, after he had his open heart surgery, he started doing some volunteer work at the hospital because he wanted to give back to an institution that helped him. I've been volunteer coaching. Track and field has been such an important part of my life while I was in high school and in college that I reached out back in 2009 to Holyoke Catholic. I told them what I would like to do. They said, that's great, come on board. And now I'm at East Long Meadow. I've been doing that since 2009. So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are agencies, there are organizations, there are church groups. If you've really been a strong member of your local church, and there's always something to do. My mom and my aunt used to clean the church on 1 week a month or something like that. Or, there's people. Believe me, there's a place for everyone because there can't be enough volunteers or community service folk out there. So there will be a place. It really depends on what you want to do, and the key is what you are interested in doing, and look around your community and see where are their needs, and and I'm going to reach out.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's really important. I think it gives us a purpose to get up in the morning. It gives us a purpose to do something bigger and better. And sometimes we become a bit self-absorbed on our own world and our own issues or our own situations that we also may be going through. And this gives you, and I find personally, it gives me an opportunity to be thinking about something else and doing a service to help someone else. And that really is very cathartic, and it's very it's helpful. I think it's it's a good thing to do. So.
Well, Gary, I've told this story many times when I've spoken at breakfasts and luncheons as we honor volunteers. But this is a perfect place to tell the story. So for those who have not heard this, we have a companion program at the Senior Center, which has been run for many years. It was run first by Fran Aguda, and then Fran retired a few years ago, and Joyce Peregrine took that over, where we match primarily homebound older adults with a volunteer, and that volunteer sometimes does friendly visits. They might take the person, grocery shopping, or they might do shopping for them, or take them to medical appointments or whatever. But years ago, when I first started at the old Senior Center, we had a volunteer in the companion program. Her name was Dottie No, and I'm sure I know some of you listening and watching remember Dottie. And Dottie was just a phenomenal volunteer. She logged in, hundreds of hours, which a lot of our volunteers do. I mean, they work many, many, many hours for us. And I remember I ran into Dottie one day. I was dropping something off at City Hall. We were in the City Hall parking lot, and she was always, bright and bubbly. And, she saw me across the parking lot, started waving to me. And so I went over to her, and, we were chatting. And I said, Dottie, I said, I just want to tell you, I am so appreciative of the work that you do for us. I said, you are, in a pinch when Fran couldn't find somebody to take somebody to a doctor's appointment, Dottie would be the one. Sure, she would step up to the plate. And I said, you have no idea how helpful that is for our seniors and how much we rely on that. And you know what she said to me, Gary? She said, no, Tina. She said, I should be thanking you. I said, don't be ridiculous. I said, you're doing all this work. She said, no. She said, that program, and it's just what you just said, Gary, gives me a reason to get up every morning. And how important is that? And I just, it really turned things around. And I think that I have used that quote so many times because I think it's the essence of what you're saying with your 7 tips to a balanced life for you personally. We have to have a reason to get up in the morning.
Right. No, we really do. And you know what? I think with the pandemic today, I was sharing with you an article which I haven't completed. I downloaded into the computer on a woman who was basically saying just because the world is opening up right now and things are starting to head in the direction to get back to normal, she basically goes into this long article on, I know I am able to do these things now, but do I want to? And so, and we are all in this. We are all going in through this transition at a different pace, and some have a different comfort zone. Some really are at that point where they don't want to do a whole lot right now. So if you could just put your toes in the water a little bit and volunteer at some place that you feel comfortable and safe, it becomes so familiar to you, and it's so therapeutic in so many different ways. But it gives you an opportunity to get up and to do good for somebody else and something else, and that in and of itself makes you feel good. But I also want to caution people that if your plate is totally full and you have so many things going on, you don't want to overextend yourself even more. You know, that could be unhealthy for you. So I really feel that this is on an individual by individual basis, and you really need to self-reflect and go, gee, I would love to do this, but oh my God, I'm watching my grandchildren 3 days a week, and I have to do this, and I'm over here, and I'm doing this, and I have, you know, that's it may not be the right time for you, and timing is everything when it comes to any kind of activity and engagement. But
well, I think the other thing, Gary, that you've pointed out, and I just want to jump in here, is that because that's exactly the example I was thinking of. You know, for those who are watching grandchildren, hello, that's volunteering at home kind of thing. You know what I mean? That is, you're probably not getting paid to watch your grandchildren. You're volunteering to do it. That is a form of volunteer work. It's just that you're doing it within the family. So let's take a break. I do want to get into a little bit because we also have some ideas at the Senior Center of sort of how people volunteer and you know how to go about that. You were talking, Gary, before about go back to maybe an agency, an organization that helped you. There are some other ways to do that too, and I want to get into some of the specifics of that so that people have a little bit of a template or a guideline for, okay, I want to do this. Now what's my first step? And you mentioned one, and we have some others. So we'll talk about that. Let's take a short break. It is 7:33. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM. Radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. And because of the topic that we're talking about this morning, we're going to listen to Billy Swan singing I Can Help. We'll be back.
Show you this, I can help. I got two strong arms.
Support for community radio on WSKB is provided by Betts Plumbing and Heating Supply Company, an independent, family-owned wholesaler serving Westfield for over 50 years, specializing in plumbing, heating, and industrial piping supplies. On the web at bettsplumbing.com or at 14 Coleman Avenue in Westfield.
I'm Mark Auerbach. Join me every Friday at 8 a.m. for Arts Beat, where you'll meet interesting actors, directors, designers, and musicians here in Western New England.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB. Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 7:37. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC cable channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host. And on the phone this morning, we have Dr. Gary Gorman from Strength for Life. He's our resident chiropractor here at the cable station. Gary, we are talking about volunteerism, right, and community service as the last of your 7 tips for a balanced life. And you had mentioned, Gary, before the break of, going back to organizations maybe that have, helped you in the past. You mentioned your own coaching. You volunteer as a coach. You don't get paid for that because track and field was such a big part of your life and in high school and college. And I think really, so often sports kind of help to keep students on the straight and narrow. And I think, that was probably true for a lot of students. I would also say, we often get people who call us at the senior center and say, I want to volunteer. And so, we'll say to them, well, what would you like to do? Well, I don't know. I want to volunteer. Okay. So what we do is this. Mary Lou has gotten into the habit, my program director, of saying to them, here's a copy of our newsletter. Read the whole thing carefully and see if there's anything in here that kind of piques your interest, and at least as a starting point. So what I would say to people, if you want to volunteer, is think about things like, what skills do you have? What skills do you have that maybe other people don't have? I happen to be very organized. I'm a planner. I could take those skills. I mean, I've served on boards and I've been, the secretary of boards and things like that. Well, because you need somebody who's organized and, who can take notes. I'm a good writer. So those are some skills that I have. I mean, I have other skills as well, but we've had several of our older adults who have good computer skills. And they've done computer support tutorials for people at the senior center. So, there's a way to kind of look at, well, what are your skills? And then what organizations are out there that need those kinds of skills? You look at your talents. I think of somebody like Kathy Berry, who does our Do-Re-Mi Singers choral group. Kathy's a retired music teacher. And we were in need of a director, and she heard about it, or somebody knew about her, and she came to meet with me. I mean, she's been directing the Do-Re-Mi Singers for about 12 years now. So she took that talent and turned that into, a volunteer position. And the other thing I think of is, what are the hobbies that you do? It doesn't necessarily have to be a skill or a talent, but what do you like to do? We have the Sassy Stitchers group at the senior center. They knit and crochet. We have the Quilters group. They do blankets, and we distribute those to, the neonatal unit over at Bay State Medical Center and Bethlehem House. And we have our Heaven's Angels group. If you like to sew, they take wedding gowns. They make white gowns for babies who don't make it out of the hospital. So, there are, I'll tell you, a group right now, and Gary, you would probably appreciate this because Gary's really good at, being outside, and, he loves planting his flowers and, gardens and sort of the landscaping piece. Grandmother's Garden here in Westfield is desperate for volunteers. If you like planting, if you like to be outside, if you like gardening, if you love flowers, they would love to have you. I mean, this is my plea because I think I'm going to be getting somebody from Grandmother's Garden on the show soon because they really need volunteers for that lovely garden. People have their wedding pictures taken there, and it's free, but they need volunteers to run it. So just a few ideas of, kind of how to go about it. I don't know, Gary, what are you thinking?
No, I think that's just great, really. It's out there. Just open up your eyes, look at the newspapers, just look, go get your newsletter at the senior center, and they're available. They really are. And, I think just to say I want to volunteer is one thing, but really my sense is that if you don't engage in something that you really enjoy yourself, your volunteer experience will be very short-lived, and you don't want to commit to something that you don't particularly enjoy doing, or you don't. Once you get involved with it, it's not going to last very long. So you really need to be honest with yourself and honest with whomever you ask to volunteer with, and say, "Gee, I'd like to try this for a little while and see how it works out." Because nothing's worse than getting up in the morning and thinking you have a purpose, but the purpose is like, oh my God, I got to go to this. I got to go over here today to do this. That defeats the purpose of being a volunteer and doing some community service work.
Right. I think the other thing. Oh, go ahead, Gare.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I think the other thing too is you were mentioning before, Gary, about be realistic on what you can do. If your plate is already too full or whatever. So there are some volunteer opportunities that are what I call kind of a one-shot deal, or maybe something that happens annually. Whether it's Earth Day, I'm going to go work with the city and clean up. It's a Saturday, so it's one day. You know what I mean, right, Garrett? Right. So it doesn't necessarily have to be I'm doing this once a week or twice a week or 5 days a week or whatever. It might be I do this once a year. We used to, Gary, you and I used to, I was on the board for the Parish Cupboard in West Springfield, which is like a soup kitchen. And we used to, remember when we wanted to volunteer for something to do with Thanksgiving, and the director at the time said to us, what I really need are you to help with, I really need you to help with serving dinner the night before Thanksgiving. That Wednesday night, they would serve dinner. They didn't have any of their regular volunteers because they were traveling to be with family, or they were going to have guests and family over, so they were preparing their own Thanksgiving meals. And you and Grace and I did that for how many years, Gar?
Quite a few,
right?
Yeah. We felt that was really good because we wanted Grace to start to become exposed. She was at St. Thomas at the time.
Yes. Yep. And I think, Gary, that's the other piece of this. As a parent, your children, I always say you need to walk the walk, not just talk the talk. When your children see you volunteering, helping others, and, for kids, it might be something like, well, I'm going to go next door and take my neighbor's, my elderly neighbor's trash barrel down the driveway so that he or she doesn't have to do that, right? Or I'm going to go weed. We have sort of a community on our street. We live on a cul-de-sac. So in the middle, there's, sort of this community area with one of the neighbors, planted some bushes and flowers and things. Well, you know what? That has to be kept up. And I can remember sending Gracie out there on more than one occasion and saying, go weed the island. And it wasn't ours. It didn't belong to it, but we enjoy it. It's in front of our house, and, it's for the whole street. So I think
exactly.
Right, Gare? So think beyond, I have to do this every day, but maybe you can just, volunteer for a couple times a year. So find some programs in your community. The other thing too, RSVP, if you're tech savvy, go on the RSVP website. Oh my gosh, they've got a laundry list in the whole Pioneer Valley of who's looking for volunteers. So organizations can actually sort of advertise, we need somebody to do this, we need somebody to do that. I mean, in my opinion, Gary, I think there's something for everybody, right?
Oh, I totally agree. It's out there. It's just a matter of having the correct match and, matching yourself up with something that you're interested in wanting to do. I mean, when I went through cardiac rehab, I went down to Bay State's cardiac rehab program after my surgery, and they had volunteers there that would put you onto your Holter monitor while you were exercising. And they were volunteers. I suspect most of them had gone through the program, had been patients there at one point in time and wanted to give back, and they thought that would be their way to give back to an organization or a group that saved their life, basically. Yes. So, there's a lot. dog walking or
Yeah.
you know,
Hey,
I mean,
working
we
at
could
the
go,
animal shelter. I mean, you
right.
like animals, great. They need people to clean the cages. They need, people to. I mean, it's some of it's not very glamorous. That's why we need volunteers. I used to have a volunteer who cleaned all my medical equipment. Way back in the day when I didn't have enough staff to do it. I didn't have any maintenance person or senior center helper person way back when at the old senior center. So, sometimes I think it's interesting. I had a physician who called me last week, left me a message. He is retiring and he wants to volunteer. And I'm thinking, wow, a physician, and I think his idea is probably different than my idea, but my first thought was, oh my gosh, what a phenomenal educational resource. Can I have him come in and do programs on, he's a cardiologist. I mean, on heart stuff. I mean, in my head, I can think of a thousand things that I could do. Now, he may be thinking of something completely different. And so I think that's the other thing, Gary. You have to be open to what the needs are in the community. And somebody else, you know what I mean? Somebody else I might look at you and say, oh, well, let's see. I mean, I happen to know that you are very social and very comfortable being around other people. Your role at the senior center since COVID has been to help us with traffic flow during our mealtime, but really more importantly, to do well-being checks as people are coming through the line.
Right.
How are you doing?
Yep.
How are you doing emotionally? How are you doing being isolated and not seeing your grandchildren? Because, a lot of people didn't fare very well. And just that, just having somebody ask about that, take a minute or two, to kind of check in. Now that's not, it may not be, other people might not have recognized that as one of your talents, but I know that you just make people feel very comfortable. So,
And I oftentimes, my big bent for the last several months is, are you hydrating enough? Are you drinking enough water during the day?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I bring that up to them. And you know what? A lot of the response is, well, I probably don't drink enough. And, I said, look, it's really important for you to hydrate. Our bodies are 70% water. Every time you go to you urinate, I say when you pee, you replenish, basically, because and I saw it with my own parents. It is like pulling teeth with the older adult population. I think the generation ahead of ours, our generation is pretty good, and certainly the generations coming up, we dig the generations a lot about their entitlement world and everything, but that younger generation, everyone carries a water bottle around with them no matter what.
Well, you know what, Gary? I just had a great idea, Mr. Volunteer, Dr. Volunteer for the Senior Center. So next week we're supposed to be getting a heat wave. And here's what I think. Now that you've told me that, Gary, that you're reminding people about hydration, I'm going to get Joanne Boucher, our kitchen person, to get some water. So I'm going to have you next week hand out water to everybody who comes through, either on Tuesday or Thursday. And then I want you to say to them, I'm giving you this. And every time you come through this line, I want to see a water bottle in your car. How's that?
Right.
All right?
No, I think it's great. I think it's great because, again, it's needed. It's just really something that is neglected, and we want to be proactive and prevent people from landing in the hospital as a result of dehydration. And
right.
So
as a volunteer, that's something that, you and I in the last 3 minutes just created like a new program for a volunteer.
Right.
I need a volunteer to do that. I can't run around from car to car. But, by saying that, it's like, here's an educational moment because that's your talent. You've established a rapport with people, so they trust you. They're going to listen to you. You're a doctor, so you know the importance of this. So we're going to blend that together in your volunteer capacity and say, okay, Gary, you're going to take on this program. It's called our new hydration program, our curbside hydration program.
Right.
And there it is.
Right.
And that, my
I
friends,
think that's great.
Yeah, that, my friends, is how volunteerism is born. So let's take a short break. This is one of my favorite songs to play, all about volunteering and helping others. It's Kathy Tricoli singing Go Light Your World. We'll be right back with Dr. Gary Gorman.
There is a candle in every soul, some brightly burning, some dark and cold. There is a spirit who brings a fire ignites a candle and makes his home. So carry your candle, run to the darkness, seek out the hopeless, confused and torn, and hold out your candle for all to see it. Take your candle and go light your world. Take your candle and go light your world. Frustrated brother, see how he's tried to light his own candle some other way. See now your sister, she's been robbed and lied to, still holds a candle without a flame. So carry your candle, run to the darkness, seek out the lonely, the tired and worn. Hold out your candle for all to see it. Take your candle and go light your world. Take your candle and go light your world. 'Cause we are a family whose hearts are blazing. So let's raise our candles and light up the sky, praying to our Father in the name of Jesus. Make us a beacon in darkest times. So carry your candle, run to the darkness, seek out the helpless, deceived and poor. Hold out your candle for all to see it. Take your candle and go light your world. Carry your candle, run to the dark, seek out the hopeless, confused and torn. Hold out your candle for all to see. Take your candle and go light your world. Take your candle and go light your world.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Dunkin' Donut Shops of Westfield and the Sardinia family. It's nice to know that even as the world changes, Dunkin' Coffee remains the same at 7 convenient locations throughout Westfield.
Hi, it's Bob Plass, and I have Wow, It's Tuesday every Tuesday, 6 to 8. Wow, it's Tuesday.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
I did it!
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 7:55. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC cable channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and on the line this morning is my husband, Dr. Gary Gorman. We like to think of him as our resident chiropractor here at WCPC cable channel 15. So good morning again, Dr. Gorman.
Well, good morning.
So
it's
I'm
nice
going
to hear your voice. I never see your face, so I like to see. At least I hear your voice
But it's
over
nice.
there.
It's nice to know what I sound like, right? So,
exactly.
So
yeah.
Gary,
You know,
as
Tina, I was
go
thinking
ahead.
about this on the break real quick.
Yes.
Is that, you know, I think for the listeners, if you open up your eyes to your community, you know, and if something is bothering you, volunteer to fix it. Every time I drive to the common, I see those leaves that are just bugging me. Well, then volunteer to rake them up. Or if I, you know, the weeds are in the, you know, the place where the flowers are planted. Well, volunteer to weed. You know, if we're not on a mission every second as we travel around our own communities, we could open up our eyes to see what needs are out there, and if nobody's doing it, there's your job right there.
You know what? I
starting.
totally agree. And, you know, I think Pete Coles and I have talked about that on this radio show before. You know, don't leave it to somebody else. If there's something or if there's just something in your community that you would like to see happen, you know, gee, why don't we, you know, I hear Agawam does this or West Springfield does that. Why can't we do that in Westfield? Well, volunteer. Volunteer to start the movement, whatever it is that you want to bring. And, you know, it might take you and lots of other people, but you have to start somewhere. So I think that's that's really that point well taken, Gare, because we got a lot of people who sit on the sidelines and complain, you know, well, they should do this and they should. Well, who is they? They is us. We are members of the community, and that includes you. So really good point, Gare. Yeah, if you see something or you hear about something, you know, I'll tell you, the schools are always looking for volunteers. There are all kinds of things that you can do. And the other thing, too, keep in mind as you're thinking about volunteering, now that we've gone through COVID and we've had so much that's happening at home, there are things that you can do at home to help someone else. I mean, whether it's telephone reassurance calls, whether it's here, I'm going to give you 100 envelopes that need to be stuffed for, you know, this good cause for a mailing that we're doing. Well, you can do that at home. You don't have to, you know,
right.
if that's what works best for you. I mean, hey, how many times during COVID did I bring stuff home for you and Grace to do? Here, can you fold this? Can you stuff that? Gracie, can you make 75 cards for my mother's for Mother's Day? You know, I mean, those were all things that we're able to do at home. So if transportation is an issue for you or if flexibility, you know, it's like I don't have 2 straight hours, but I have 10 minutes here, 15 minutes there. So you stuff, you know, some envelopes and then 2 hours later you stuff a few more. So there are so many ways that you can help and you can be creative. You just have to, I guess, Gare, right, think outside of the box.
Right, exactly. No, I agree.
Right, a little bit.
It's out there. You know, nobody's going to turn down a volunteer, and you know some require a little bit more. Some volunteer positions are a little bit more involved.
Yep.
You may have to go through an application process or a query check or whatever it is, depending on what you're doing.
Training.
If you're out weeding in the center island, you don't need to have a query check.
Right.
I mean, you know, if you're dealing with other people, then it's up to that agency or institution to guide you along through the process if that's something you really want to do. But I feel going full circle is that giving back is healthful for you, and it's a really healthy thing to do, especially if you have too much time on your hands.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
You know, we've often used this expression, Gene, you and I.
Yeah.
Oh, my God, that person has way too much time on their hands. They're just doing these things that are kind of weird and bizarre. Well, if you're one of those folks that have way too much time on your hands, take some of that time off your hands and help others. And that really is so therapeutic in its own right.
Well, you know, you're right. Oh, go ahead, Gare.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, just, you know, dovetailing on what you just said, you know, we sometimes get people on the phone at the senior center who will give us a list of every single thing that we're doing wrong. And I now have gotten to the point where when my staff has to listen to that, I'll say, you know, send them to me or I'll talk to them on the phone. And that's my first thing. It's like, you know what? You're right. We could do it better. How do you want to help us to do that? How can you help us to do that? So, you know, and I'm not being wise about it. It's kind of like, hey, yeah, you know, that would be great. I don't have enough manpower to do that. Are you willing to step up to the plate and help us out here a little bit? So,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right,
exactly.
There we are. It is 8:01. I'm a minute late, so we're going to wrap this up. Dr. Gary Gorman, thank you so much. I think the next time you're on, we're just going to go back and kind of do a wrap up of those 7 tips for a balanced life, because it's, been spread out over actually an 8 or 9 month period because we had to take a few breaks along the way, and really pull it all together. So that's what we'll do next time. All right?
Very good.
Everybody
all right.
have a great day. Stay healthy, my friends. If you have not been vaccinated, call the senior center if you need help with that, if you're homebound, or if you need transportation, because now it's an option for everyone. So stay healthy. We'll see you next week.